This is the Leo Clamaco podcast.
What made you become a politician?
Oh, I don't even like the word politician. Is that bad? I guess I am. But
What made you go into service?
yes, there you
How about
go.
that?
I think that's a much better way to
Yes.
think about it. So I love my city. I love my community. And I really just thought we weren't getting the best representation. We don't have term limits in Pompano Beach. We end up with people who stay in office for a very long time. And
Got
that
it.
can lead to different
Why is that?
issues.
Why are there no term limits?
Well, it's something we should be talking about in Pompano Beach.
Yes.
Some people say elections are effectively term limits, right? Because if
Right.
you're not doing a good job, the
Right.
public will take you out. But
Right.
it is much easier for incumbents to stay in office with the
It
way
is.
that money flows and relationships
Right.
and name recognition. So
Right, and they already know you. You have the backing of the people
Yeah.
already.
yeah. So I ran 2 years ago. I am relatively new to this. This is my second term, but our terms are only 2 years.
Okay.
So it's why, like I said, I really wanted to represent the people of the city, not all the special interest groups, not the developers, not everything else, all the other forces. I always tell
Yeah.
everyone you have one person who fights for you and represents you, and that is your city commissioner. Everyone else, the developers, have a lot of voices. They have a lot
That's
of
awesome.
other people speaking for them.
Right. What's your background?
So I actually moved around a lot as a child. I was born in Alaska, and we moved every
Wow.
couple years of my life. So
Very cool.
I came down to South Florida in 1992, went to high school down here in Hollywood at Chaminade Madonna,
Okay.
and then left for college. I have bachelor's and master's degrees in mechanical and aerospace engineering. I went to
Wow.
Princeton undergrad, University
for
of
you.
Washington graduate school. Thank you.
That's awesome.
I worked for Boeing in Seattle for a few years as an engineer, working on commercial airplane product development in the early 2000s.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah, and then I left there, moved back east, and did an MBA at Harvard, and then moved to New York City and worked on Wall Street for years as an investment banker, and then moved back to Pompano in 2011. So I've been in Pompano since 2011, 13, 14 years, and it really is the only home I've ever had since I moved so much during my life.
Wow, that's quite a journey to get to where you are. From engineering to finance to service. How did you, looking back, how do you connect those dots?
I don't know that there's any connection. I really don't. I just think that I'm someone who sees a problem and wants to solve it.
Okay.
Whether it's an engineering problem, a math
Right.
problem, whatever it is, and I'm motivated to do that. So I have this drive to solve things or to make things better. And so I think that might be the common thread through all of it. And yes, ended up in public service now. It was never something I ever contemplated doing or thought about. So I'm surprised myself.
So how did you get into it? What pushed you? What was that that turning point for you that said, okay, no, I got to go do this?
So 3 years ago in Pompano, there was an unpopular project to take a lane out of Atlantic Boulevard.
OMG, I remember this. My wife and I were just cursing at why is this lane being taken away? I remember this.
So that really was the impetus for me, because the sitting commissioner at the time kept voting to take the lane out of the road and to kind of
what
deceive the
reason?
people about it. I'd take the poles down, vote to take it out. Well, it's part of a beautification and downtown that Pompano wants to build, and it's something that's been in the works for a very, very long time. And my argument was always, Pompano doesn't look like Pompano did when you came up with this plan a decade or
Right.
15 years ago. We have grown so much. We have people who
much.
moved here from New York during COVID.
I
Exactly. So we needed to reevaluate what was the right solution for our city, but that commission was just full speed ahead with the plan that had been in the works. So that was the thing that really got me off of the sidelines 3 years ago now.
I'm thinking here and I'm like trying to connect the dots in my head, and I can actually see it now. I can see how the engineering and the finance led to you being a commissioner. That kind of makes sense, right? Because you are in charge of construction, growing, creation.
Well, Yes, we as a commission set policy. We hire a city manager who executes all of this for us.
Right.
But it is our job to set the policy and the direction of the city. So there is a lot of strategy to it also, and what the vision is for what people want. And I believe it's crucial to be out in the community listening to people to understand what they want. That's a huge part of the job for me, to get to know people, because you hear things, and and if you're out and about, you hear something, and then you hear it from someone else, and they say it a different way, but you have to connect these common threads to really understand what the people want.
So let's get into that. What do they want? Why did they vote you back in?
So I think the people of Pompano.
I voted for you as well, by the way. I just want to let you know.
Thank you. I appreciate that. We won by quite a bit. It was I view the election as a bit of a mandate based on what happened in District 1,
Right.
the overwhelming victory that I had in District 3, and some of the amendments that we were fighting. But what the people want is Pompano to not look like the rest of South Florida and not succumb to all of the forces that they see happening in Fort Lauderdale and Miami.
Amen.
They want it to be an affordable place to live for families, a clean, safe place with fun things to do, and some development, but the right type of development.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. What is your not opinion, but what do you think about the two new buildings being built on A1A, the Waldorf and the Ritz?
So there are places in our city where development like that makes sense.
Right.
And I think those brand names, all of that, bring a lot to Pompano. It says a lot about our city. And,
Yes.
And I personally believe that Pompano has one of the most beautiful natural beaches. The work that we did down by the fishing village with the restaurants and the redoing the pier, all of that in our
Looks
east.
incredible.
It is. All of that work in our East CRA has enabled that type of interest in our city.
Right.
But I also believe we are on the cusp of overdoing this in that same area. Not further south where the Waldorf and Ritz are, but in that in that really concentrated area, just in Atlantic and just north of Atlantic. There's a lot more buildings that are approved and that are about to be built there. So in terms of traffic, green space, parking, there's a lot of issues we need to work through in that area.
Right. Pompano does not want to be Fort Lauderdale.
They do not.
Right.
The people I represent do not want to be it. When I
agree.
talk to people about development, and I was at the polls, like I said, for 2 weeks, walking up to people, talking to them about development, there was not one person that walked up to me and said, oh, open the doors, bring everything, open the floodgates. And everybody says, oh, no, I don't want that, and I don't want that. So it is really pervasive in our city, that view.
Yes. Where do you see Pompano going? Where do you see us in 5 years?
So I always say that if we make all the right decisions, or most of the right decisions, and set the strategy and the direction on the right path now, we can look back hopefully in 10, 15 years and be the best place to live in Broward County and be a city where everyone says they did it right.
I think it already is. By the beach, I think Pompano's the best.
It is. But like I said, there's so much more coming. So we have to be really careful with that overdevelopment. So the developers have a lot of plans for our city. We have a lot of, there's not a lot of land in Broward County, and you have to build up now, and there's such a demand for housing. But we have to balance that with what the residents and the neighborhoods of our city can handle, and the infrastructure of our city can handle.
There's that too. And the traffic, right?
Yeah, well, that's all part of infrastructure. The roads, public safety, all of those things, utilities, all of it is really important. And I really always run on the basics. If we get the basics right, I think we will be the premier place to live in 15 years. But that even includes paying attention to things like education, which doesn't fall under the purview of a city commission. But it's really important that we think about those things as a city, because those are our residents who attend our schools there.